Hi all, Randy Green here, and welcome to another little talk where I am sharing some of my ideas and perceptions. And of course, this is my angle on the processes that I go through, having roots energetically and systemically speaking, both in the past, present, and in the future. The other podcast I made the other day about reconnecting to the future, I prophesized, quote unquote, of course, due to many years of experience, that we have days where we go high. And then comes the merry-go-round, where they shift us into different timelines, where reality plays out the opposition, the chaos, the polarity, all depending on what level that we have hit with the momentum of higher energy that we build ourselves up to. I talk about these cycle and these shift of timeline dynamics in the advanced clearing work courses in the whole academy. This is, of course, personal. These are my experiences that I share here with you. But generally speaking, and I've got that already back in, when was it, 2002, when I was working as a cleaner in a big Danish company. And while I was cleaning, I was also doing a lot of personal developmental processes where I used the time. I woke up every morning at 2 a.m. and went to work and came home at 8 a.m. After having been cleaning 4 or 5 hours, all depending on the time scheme. Sometimes I took more, I extended my watch to earn more money. And in these processes, while I was cleaning the offices of people, I was in the CEO department clearing out their offices, interestingly enough, which in a way I can see symbolically as a representation of my life in general, as in kind of cleaning up the mess after others. They're doing it physically, but at the same time, I use that physical representation as a way to do inner work and clearing work. And I remember at some point I was sitting in the bathroom floor because I'm a very efficient worker. So I did my job and I do it well. I'm efficient and really good at getting things done quickly. So it is up to snuff and completely up to standard. So I was not lacking or in any ways or forms burning off hours. I was just being mindful of really focused attention on the cleaning work, so I would get it done to the standard that I'm very picky with things. I like things to be exactly as they're supposed to be, in the correct order, in ethically and physically looking the best that they can. I kind of got this, you could call it a kind of aesthetic way of things, making things look beautiful. That's kind of my thing. I don't thrive in chaos and dirt and untidiness and things that looks ugly. So of course, since that's such a huge part of me, well then very efficient, and there was no complaints whatsoever, just putting it in there so you don't think, oh yeah, Randy was doing work, and then at the same time she was just sitting there for an hour when she was doing her work and being lacking, so to speak. I was just speeding up and doing it more efficiently, which has been a trait of me throughout my lifetime in the different types of work that I've had inside the base program. Those of you who have done my classes or more of my personal stuff, you recall me telling about one boss that actually came to me and asked me to slow down my pace because the rest couldn't follow up, and it made them look bad since I got so much pushed across the table and done and finished, and then just sitting there and say, okay, what's the next task? What am I to do now? And in that also discovered how I felt that going to work for so many hours a day was insufficient and inefficient for the way the society should work. And that's another learning process, to discover these unproductive ways that this world is put together. But going back to the specific experience, I had two very specific experiences that stands out when I was working there. One was getting a download of how to reconnect my two hemispheres through the infinity sign and use that as a golden sign to connect the two hemispheres across the brainstem. And the other one was the saying that the higher up you go, the deeper down you must go as well to clean up. So if we are striving for the stars, Well, we must go through the layers that literally gives the pathways to the stars, or however you want to put it. Later, of course, I discovered that this is not just an astral dynamic. It is just as much part of the old prohibiting technologies to throw us off. And with the event program and the things that have happened, now it's more horizontal. They are, if we go high, then in many ways, the pushing into another timeline then pushes us back to scratch, so to speak, pushes us into beginning all over again. And then the momentum is stored on the other timeline, and all depending on which days and which group that is in charge of our reality field. When you reach the momentum, sometimes it's stored in some specific type of vials. Other times it's used for other purposes, and sometimes they literally just take it from us and use it for their own progression dynamics, which of course just creates more distortion. So they're just storing it so that we won't reach our full potentials. And that's where I want to go with this. We have these openings where we can begin to work with what we're here to do, and then there are the counter that comes in that in a way takes it away. And it's not about being victimized. For me, that doesn't really work. Of course, in the beginning, I got frustrated. I got the different type of emotional spectrum that goes with the fact that what I have been building, what I have been striving to achieve is been taken from me, and I don't really get the credit for it, or I can't use it, or I'm pushed into another timeline where I can't do what I'm supposed to do. And what am I supposed to do, right? But those of us who have the mission statement and are here for a specific task, from those of us who come from the future, well, then let me put it this way, I can't recall any simulations that took that into consideration. So some of my frustration is just as much perhaps the unpreparedness for how bad things actually was here or are here, because it looks so pretty from the outside. And if I go back to the beginning of my awakening process in the 2010s, and a little bit prior to that, then it was very much spiritually infused in the esoteric teaching systems and crystals and all the good stuff that you get in the beginning of the astral plane, which is deliberately put there to keep people stuck in that realm, because when things feel so pleasant, well, then a lot of people just stay there with the samadhi and with the grace and with the bliss. And I get that. And I would have loved to stay there as well, and feeling kind and compassionate most of the time, working with crystals and doing healing work. But others had other plans for me, as in kind of things were changing. If it had been 20 years ago, then I might have been stuck there, as many did throughout the New Age communities. But the world changed, and things changed, especially in 2017 when we got linked up to the Dark Galactic Core. We're still having the remnants of it, even though we are connected to the White Galactic Core in the Andromedan system. I talk about that in the whole Future Humanities YouTube channel, where I have some of the information there. So our core is linked up to the Andromedan system, which affects people in different ways. So that's not the where I want to go with this. Where I want to go is the change of reality, and the different cycles that we are undergoing in the activation processes, because that's part of what we're doing here, at least as I see it. And I talk about this in New Grand Cycles, and how we are transforming and doing the transition from the old type of reality programs into the new. And that goes with the New Grand Cycles that runs in different stages. And the stages that would clean up what we call 3-9 pillar, I talk about that in the whole Academy Sciences, so you can get the full scope of what that means if you do the course material there. If not, just take what I'm saying here and utilize in the best way you can. The 9-year cycle that we're in with the 3-9 pillar, that goes with clean up the energies of our reality field and acknowledging and understanding what reality actually is. before we shift into the next one, the 2.8 pillar, where we go with our whole connection to others and what that means between 2025 and 2034, where we clean up the 2.8 pillar racial grids, which will lead to what we could say some very deep processes for most people. And that's what everybody's trying to prepare for in one way or another, either to avoid it completely, to circumvent it, or to go through it, or whatever, depends on the holographic architecture that we have. The last, since 2017 and until 2025, or technically this year is the last year of this cycle, is the understanding of how to respond correctly with our reality field, interact correctly with our reality field, and how we can progress our energy system in concordance and according to our reality field. And that's what the whole academy is all about, is the summing up of all of the things that needs to be done to follow the dynamics of the new grand cycle so that we can do the transition. Of course, from the perspective of the original solar system civilizations, and less from the humanoids, because the humanoids have pumped out their different versions of that in different teaching systems as well, which we have seen. And most of these links up to the fifth dimension, as well as some of the programs that tries to revive Atlantis and some of the civilizations that existed during the times of Atlantis, whatever that means. So now in 2024, if you add up the numbers, plus where we are from 2017, that was the first year, and then you literally say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go 7 to 2017, adds that one up, that's a 1. 2018, that's a 2. 2019, that's a 3, and on and so forth. And then you get 2024, which is a 2, 2, 4, so that's 8. And that's the 8th principle. And that is the correct use of energy. So that's what we're learning this year, is because next year, where we round everything up and then transfer it into the next cycle, will be all about the correct use of power. And that's the beginning point of where we step into the clearing work of the 2.8 pillar, which literally were the downfall of civilizations due to wrongful use of power. So we are bridging into that one by this year and what we will achieve during this year. So for me, the focus point is, and again, if you want to know the details of this, that's a whole academy material I have built up, a step ladder process to get into the understanding of this from the basic level, that's some of the free material, into the very, very advanced level in the transition sciences and the template sciences, where you learn to work with the ways that we were progressing within the original solar system before the colonization and takeover and downfall and what have you. But the dynamics still stand for those of us who have the original solar system architecture. So it's about finding the balance between when we do the original progression work that follows with the holographic energetic architecture that's in alignment with our solar system. That's what we are to learn in this cycle of the 3-9 pillar and regain that ability. And that's why we get the windows of opportunity, where our energy system naturally aligns with the original holographic energetic architecture of our solar system. And then we get pushed off into the different timelines, the event program, what have you, the cube technology and all these kind of things. And then we create distortion. And then we have to clear that one up and get back in and get momentum. And of course, we can always say, well, there's a learning lesson, so to speak, quote unquote. There's a process of transformational ideas and ways of working with energy that will amplify our sense of self doing this work and understanding what this work truly is about and what it really means and what the implications are and how it works on an everyday basis. As we have learned to work with the Truman Show, the base program as it is, we are just not observant of it. So the first part of the journey is, of course, to observe how we live our everyday lives and what that means. And that was part of my cleaning processes when I worked as a cleaner. As in symbolically understanding that I need to exemplify what I want to make of change. I need to act it out, not in a negative way, but literally create a situation inside the base program that is a representation of the energies that I want to express and transform, whatever that means. And that leads into those of us who are here from the future, because if we understand that that's an energetic law here, that we need to exemplify and express what we want to transform, and we need to enact it in a way, then we also understand, okay, we are here trying to do that with things that doesn't exist yet. And that's why we need to align with our future selves to get that inner knowledge from our original mission statement, what we trained there, as in, what are we to do here? And that's where my frustration comes in, as in, okay, I haven't trained that things were the event program. That was not part of my training. How bad it was not part of my training. What happened in the 1950s were not part of my training. The parallel universal matrix races were not part of my training, because nobody knew of this. And you can say, well, those of us who come here, our system has mirrored that back, let me put it that way, mirrored that back to our accumulation sphere that records everything that's going on. And for some of you, that's the part of the upper template. For some of you that were born in and early were targeted to create distortion, your upper sphere in the sixth dimension most likely is dysfunctional, because it has recorded all of these distortions, which means it's overrode and have overridden the original program units. So that must be taken into consideration as well. Not thinking, oh yeah, up there in the sixth dimension, I know everything I need to do, but also look into say, okay, how has your childhood unfolded? What are the circumstances? What have happened? What was the imprint you got from the family members? What was the lineage you were born into? What kind of vessel were targeted or chosen for you? As in, if you chose your own vessel, how was it targeted? If you came in thinking, some of you did agreements with some of the factions and you got tricked and you thought you would get a specific family, specific vessel that you were appointed, and you saw that and you chose that, and then you were born and then was something completely else. How do we deal with these unfortunate circumstance? Because we don't need to go into becoming victimized. I'm a psychotherapist, remember? So it's easy for me to say, oh, don't get traumatized. But that we have been, and that's part of it. I carry a lot of trauma of every fiber in my body because I'm so sensitive. Just living in itself is traumatic. The whole situation of being misaligned is traumatic for my energy system. And the more we activate, the more we awaken, the more sensitive we become, and the more touchable we are with the energetic counter and processes, as I said, chaos from the underworld, opposition from the reality that we are part of, or polarity from the fifth dimensionals and what's going on there. So we are under this constant bombardment of different types of energies that we are, as the esoterics call it, crucified upon. And that makes it difficult for us to be in the physical reality. And I've tried this retraction and all sorts of cleansing and going up and going down, going left and going right, past, present, and future, and going high up the ladder of the vertical progression journey and cleansing journey, and try to transcend the horizontal cleansing journey from the past and into the future. I teach this again in the transition sciences in the whole academy, what that means, and how to recalibrate my entire holographic architecture, cleaning out horizontally and vertically to get free of the fourth cycle cross, because that is what it is. It was the chiasm that allowed us to time travel, but since we've been downsized and put into the three lower fields, then it has become a cross that keeps us stuck in the four wheel corners and the different realms that are soaked in our three lower fields, that then expands into the astral and the monastic or mental, that's distortion, including into the dark sixth dimension that ties us up to some of the fallen ones of Atlantis. So in that one, we have this weird aspect of trying to free ourselves, but we are crucified on different types of energies that are not ours to begin with. And many of us didn't train it as we're supposed to, because we didn't understand that when we were coming from the other worlds and entering into this. If you just think about it, how many of the different groups that are out there are literally entering into our field? Either they are doing it via craft, or as an orb, or as an android. Yes, in the old world order, we had the manifestation of quote unquote the angelic beings, but they were this kind of, that manifested in a cone of light or whatever. They were part of what we could say at the time. There was a possibility for some of the old world order groups that were working with at the time, controllers that had different allowances under certain circumstances when the rulers were not here. and the enslavers were not here, then they took the opportunity to come into some of their groups inside of reality and give them information of you should do this and this and this. But it was always cloaked and concealed and not really straightforward. And most of the time it ended up in religions. And sometimes these messengers were used to seed a new kind of deception, a new kind of reality program, a new type of information system that again would keep the human population that were founded and rooted into the original solar system civilizations within a layer of distortion, within another layer of deception that would prevent if a wave of awakening were prospected to actually happen inside the Truman Show within the collective, because the groups within the collective had cleansed out different layers of their either emotional mental field. Well, then you would send in a messenger, you would send in an angel, you create a new belief system, you create a new religion, you would create something new that would keep humanity occupied, and by that take away their activation potential. So it has already played out, that kind of thing, the last 15,000 years. But now, because everything is scaled up and exponentially, because the fourth dimension is getting closer and the new grand cycle transition dynamics is almost completed, we have got some 20 years left, and then that's completed. And then we will have a completely different type of reality that is either controlled by the parallel universal matrix races or the new Atlanteans or something else, or us, if we know how to connect to the future and get this done. So we are under this little bit of kind of not emergency, but definitely being on our toes and saying, okay, a lot of time has been spent on lesser fruitful lessons that has taken us into different rabbit holes. Me going to Australia, even though I learned a lot, still a rabbit hole. I can see that as I reconnect. And then it's a whole catch up. The last 20 years for me has been a huge rabbit hole and catch up. So that just means we need to work faster. That just means we need to be more efficient. And how do we become more efficient if our momentum is taken away from us? Because that's what it does. When we realign with our original holographic energetic architecture, one thing that we get first is the ability to be efficient and be in flow and create more. We become more productive. That's the first step of the higher order energies. And of course, that is then getting targeted into becoming productive within a different type of faction that wants us to be productive within their scheme and within whatever jurisdiction that they administer and whatever they want us to do there. Again, the enormous amount of quote unquote control that's going on in reality, which most people don't really understand to what extent that actually is. Once you get your sight and once you begin to understand what reality really is made of, and not just seeing it through the glasses of your own distortions and hopes and dreams and perceptions and projections, well, then you begin to see, okay, this is complicated. This is not a simple, clear-cut, I just need to wake up, then everything will be nice and beautiful, because we have, our solar system is part of a very, very extended systemic history and a collective history that are tied to the human civilization at large, not just within the three low fields, but within on the systemic level that goes into the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, and the choices that were made by the different groups, the councils, whoever been here, whoever sojourned through, the fact that this is a hub. And that means that a lot of groups have entered into our solar system and left it, and left things behind that is now inside the collective fields. So everybody's left a footprint or an energetic imprint, which is some of the lessons that we need to learn as well, that our mere existence leaves behind an energetic imprint on different levels. And that's, of course, some of the cleansing work that we have to do. So whenever kind of we reach up into a momentum and get shifted into another timeline, well, then our imprint of what we have achieved, which is the positive version of it, is now stuck on a different timeline. And the whole understanding of the rotundum and how the month runs in circles and how the different energies in our planetary system runs in circles that are artificially made by cube technology is to understand that as we progress and as we leave behind imprints, how do we integrate and in a way get as much as possible of the energy momentum into our cellular level, because once it reaches our cellular level, it's more difficult for the different groups to harness it or use it. But the other side is also playing in when they leave negative imprints, that once we begin to integrate into ourselves, well, then the opposition and the polarity and the chaos forces can do the exact same thing with our energy system. And then it's a direct route into our cellular level, which many that have attempted this are then getting into trouble with, which I am as well. My body is not happy about it. But it is necessary if we are to really have an impact in the base program. Because one thing is we go outside the base program and work with our higher energy system to first clear out the subtle layers, the emotional field, the mental field, and go up to the higher energy system and begin to cleanse out what's connected to the chiasm, get off the cross, that's the Christ consciousness, get off that cross, and then really begin to activate our higher order capacities, and then begin to integrate it into our mental field and integrate connecting as in from the original mind field and the perception field in the fifth dimension, connecting that to our mental field, clear through our emotional field, and go into connect to the original vibrational field, and then get that capacity in our emotional field alongside with the human capacities, being more empathic and inclusive, and what that means, and the mental processes, changing them from linear processes into spiral, radiation, emission energies that can change and work in the fifth dimension and transform energies and technology and what have you, and code systems, and then begin the process of integrating all of that into our physicality. That's where the base program begins to really struggle, because the collective, when we talk about the physicality of humanity on the collective level, that's not good. And we just had the last 5 years where we got what we could say, due to the painting blue and the circumstances and crisscrossing the sky and everything, the cellular level were connected to the parallel universal transhuman agenda in many ways and forms, including all the level of technology that's now implemented into our reality, the rolling out of quantum computers, the rolling out of AI. So that affects our biological level, the molecular level, the cellular level. And that's how the opposition, different forces, are trying to event what will come from 2025 to 2034, because that's on the molecular level. That's connected to the interaction potentials and the exchange of energy between others and you. When we go into from 2034 and onward, that's the 1-7 pillar. That's the individual level. That's the last where we take everything. And that's where we really begin to integrate to who and what we are and manifest inside this reality, or make the last decision of saying whatever I have from outside the system and part of the original reality fields, I will utilize to do the transition out of this system, or I will use all of what I have learned and what I've achieved to do the transition into physicality and be part of the future timelines of the solar system, whatever that may be. So that will be some of the things we will decide between 2034 and 2043. Oh, that's difficult. Sorry, second language, remember. So with that, we have this possibility for the final decision. But in a way, the work that we are doing now must be chosen in a way. And that's some of the process I'm going on right now, where I'm saying, okay, do I really want to manifest it into my molecular state as part of the base program, transforming that from its most dense level, since I've already transformed the emotional mental fields to a large degree, not completely, nobody does, it's always being imprinted and affected, and we are aligning with circumstances and realities and energies and what have you and other people, which also I teach that in the whole academy course material as well. And on the higher level, all the different experiences I've had there in my cleansing process, the vertical and the horizontal one, as I decrucified myself to get connected to the chiasm, and by that we're able to do the time travel, so I could begin to clear my timelines, and by that begin to recreate my original holographic energetic architecture and let go of things that were no longer of use, that just needed to decompose and cease to exist, and then make the choice of what was useful for me now and what was I supposed to do that for. And that's one of the reasons why I came back from the future, because I had so much involved in so many layers of the solar system as the Pillar Project. So it was my responsibility as one of the team leaders to clear out certain types of technologies that I had engineered and I had become part of while I was working at the workstations, part of the original solar system Pillar Project. So that's also why some of us that chose to come back, we had other tasks to do, which is what we say on an individual level that needed to be done. I've done that too. Then it was on the collective level, which is the whole academy. And now it's reality. And that's where I go in. I have 1 year to achieve what I should have achieved years ago, or were actually supposed to do already when I came back and entered into this field in 1959. Anyway, so there are circumstances that are delaying our work here, and that's some of the realizations that we must take onto ourselves, and that comes into our emotional structure and our mental structure, and how willing we are to look at ourselves from the worst angle possible, and not feeling like failures, which is part of the process. It is good to go through these different emotions of shame and blame and failure and victimization, but from a psychological, psychotherapeutic aspect, as in where you go through these stages because you know you need to confront them, but you are not going through them because you want to get stuck there and begin to feel pity with yourself, and then you cry all day in a corner, or whatever that is, because that's not conducive, right? But we need to confront these emotions so that when they pop up, we know that, okay, this is an energetic parasite. No, this is part of my own emotional pattern from childhood. No, this is something that has been imposed onto me. No, this is something that has been put into me from dream time. No, this is something that's a program that I'm connected to. No, this is something I picked up from someone else. It's an imprint from another living being, and onward and so forth. So this is why we need to go through these different stages and these different understandings so that we can discern what type of energy are we confronted with? How does that energy affect our energy system? What are the implications of that imprint? What are the implications of that program? What are the implications of that energetic parasite? What does it do to our body? What's the physical effect of this? What is the emotional effect of this? What is the mental effect of this? Again, I teach this in the whole Academy course material, where I go through the sciences, into the energy work, and into the template work. So I covered all bases on that one. That's the 2-8 pillar that I have made in the transition science and the whole Academy course material, as this is what I can give to others and the collective of this is how you get through the next 9 years. And this is how you bridge into the 1-7 pillar, where you can make the legit and valid choice of if you want to stay or if you want to leave, because you've gone through the processes, so you know what you choose. You know what you're getting yourself into. Have I made that choice yet? And that's my process today. I connected to my future self, get more of that in. Yesterday, I was completely absorbed in the base program as expected. And today I'm then doing the Trinity, where I had the high and then I just had the low, which is the base program. And now I'm doing the merging, the opposition, the transformational processes, and figuring out, do I want to stay or do I want to leave? And the point is that I don't know yet. I really don't know yet if I am going to stay or if I'm going to leave. Everything in me tells me that it would probably be most conducive for the collective if I really integrated myself into the base program physically and in the biofield, taking everything I've achieved and begin to put it into the biofield, and then actually become what we could call an actual cone of light, or a nodal point, or an anchor point, or a light tower, or whatever you want to call it. And then, due to whatever I've been going through my entire lifetime, including the last 5 years of what we could say counter programs and chaos programs and polarity programs that have been hammered into my field, and in many, many ways have all of my elemental beings, whatever's left of the original layers and structures of my being, not the higher level, because that just turns the warrior on, but everything else is in a state of fight and flight. The trauma level in my physicality is high, and it's my body's not responding well, let me put it this way. It prefers the caring, the nurturing, which I'm good at, and I have trained that fortunately in the beginning of my journey. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here. And the opposition to that in my own system is the warrior and the team leader and the different realities I've been part of, knowing I can do this, so I have a strength as well. But that does not take away what we could say the elemental beings of my emotional field and my mental field and what's left there that are still part of the physicality. I can't just remove these, because then my bioprint and my emotional mental field construction will completely collapse. And then this organic vessel will no longer be, because the reality has not changed yet. The outer reality programs have not changed that into the fourth dimension. So this is where we are in between chairs, directed towards us due to the collective of humanity, as well as the reality program itself and the different factions that are still in control of it. And that's where we are relying on some of the other groups to make up their mind and begin to push the transition of our reality field into what is supposed to be. And my hope is, I really, as I keep saying, when we speak things out loud, sometimes the cubes pick up on this one, and it's easier for the ears to hear that needs to hear it, is that for me, as if you ask me, will it be possible to do the planetary transition if we keep humanity inside the current types of organic vessels with the Truman Show as it's being arranged right now? My answer is a clear no, that's impossible, because the transition goes into the original fourth dimension of our reality field. Will it be possible to do the transition under the parallel universal matrix races and their transhuman agenda? No, absolutely not. That will pull the entire reality field into their artificial fourth dimension, which is what they are opting for. They are not opting for what we could say a continuation of this type of civilization. They are having their hybrid programs. They are running for a complete takeover. Will it be possible to do the transition into the new Earth and the fifth dimension under the new Atlantean military projects? And my answer is a clear no. They tried that the last 5 years, and all they achieved were the activation of the Orion Dark Galactic Core. They messed it up in Atlantis. Of course, they're messing it up still. They haven't learned a damn thing. They're still doing the same things as they did during the times of Atlantis. They're doing the same method. So it's still not working, because the whole understanding of this is, how does the original solar system work, and how do we work with our reality field? That's the lesson that we are to have learned here from 2017 and this year, and bordering into a little bit of 2025. And if we haven't learned the lesson yet, that's the correct use of energy, well, then we're just going to mess it up again. And since we are entering into the original fourth dimension, we will have what's called direct cause and effect, or as I call it, instant karma. There will not be the delay we're used to. That will be as in those who are following the original transition dynamics. They will do the transition. The ones that are opposing the transition dynamics will be pushed into a segregated type of reality field that's in alignment, how they think and how they feel and what they're made of and what they want to achieve, as the original dynamics were. So that will create different groups within our society and within our reality field, which we are already seeing being played out now. For those of us who want to do the transition into the future of the original solar system calibration and reconfiguration and original structure and configuration of its original reality program set up, as I talk about in the whole philosophy book, as well as in the transition sciences, everything I'm saying here, I have made the material to back it up, and the solutions and what type of energy work and what you need to do and the sciences behind it, what you need to understand. So you can recalibrate yourself into that understanding, or figure it out on your own and then use some of my material as a support to what you already know. Because of course I don't have all the answers, nobody does. You only know what is best for you in the alignment with your energy system and what you need to do. But inspiration can definitely come in play. Similarly, as we could say, will it make a difference if you understand quantum sciences? No, not really, because it's on a different level of reality, which you per definition or by control not really have any access or control over yourself as an individual. But will it make a difference in the collective field of understanding of realities? Everybody understood quantum sciences as they actually were. And we all worked with the idea that we actually can affect reality by the way we think and the way we feel. And by that, create different types of entanglement and different types of energetic patterns. Well, if we all had the observance of that, then we would also act accordingly, some for good and some for ill. But at least we would know that that's a reality, and then that would become part of reality. So the change, if we are as a collective to do the transition, we must adapt to a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling, a new way of acting, and a new way of working with reality as it actually is, and understanding the sciences behind our reality as they actually are, and not the artificial frequency-based 4% general science relativity, Einsteinian, Newtonian types of perception of reality, which is inaccurate and made for that specific purpose of limiting us into the third cycle energies that are focused upon space-time and wormholes and what have you, which are inaccurate because it has no non-holographic properties, but it allowed for the quantum sciences to be taken over and build a new technology to block it via the different ionospheric devices as well as the grid devices such as the Hadron Colliders. So that's what that was meant for. And if we begin to understand that, and that's what when we say, what are we here to do from the future? First important step is to change perception of reality within ourselves and exemplify that. Second important step is that whatever we will produce will assist humanity to change their perception of reality, whatever that means. And then once we have done with the collective, because the collective interact with the reality field energies, we can expand it into reality field itself. It will almost happen automatically. So who is it that needs to change? Humanity at large. Can we do that? Can we ask humans to change? No, that's part of seeing things as they truly are. And that's the catch-22 that we haven't figured out yet. I haven't figured it out. I've done the material. I've put everything out there, completed it to the large degree. Those of you who are listening to this, you're hearing my podcast. You're hearing this. Not many of you are picking up on it and doing the classes. Not that I'm saying that my classes are the only solution, not at all. I'm just saying a lot of people are listening and they are hearing things, but do they put it into exemplification? Are you really living the understanding of what energy is? Are you really adapting your energy system into what it could be and how you transform your emotional and mental fields? Are you really putting all in so that you are becoming the change that the world needs? Are you really doing what you're supposed to do? Or are you just doing 10%, 5%, 20%? Are you living it and being it? Or are you just alluding to it, doing a little bit here and there whenever it feels comfortable, only wanting the good side of it and not the real work of it? That's part of your mission statement as well. You need to figure out, where are you? How much are you in? And what's in the way? For me, as I said, the elemental being, so I'm working on that process, which I know will take a little bit of time, and figure out how do I change my molecular state into being okay with the high vibrational energies in an environment that are highly hostile, in an environment that's highly controlled, in a world that's not ready for it yet. But we did have the ancient teachers that could do it, but they use technology. So if it's a matter of technology, where do I find the original solar system technology that allows for that, and on and so forth? What are the solutions for you to be able to fully activate and become in alignment with the challenges and the sciences and the solutions that we need to solve the problem of a world as we are in it now, so that it can do the transition, so that it will no longer create the amount of distortion, so that we can free ourselves from the enslavement program, so that we can let go of the colonization faction, so that we at large, as a civilization, vibrate into a different type of reality field and a different type of configuration, where the original dynamics of segregation will kick in, so that whatever is non-conducive for the original solar system will never get a footing because the collective have chosen otherwise. And that's how we got colonized, because the collective sided up with some of the regressed races of the 410 pillar. That's how we got into the jam that we're in now. So let's undo that one. They're no longer here. We are no per se, as in de facto, no longer under their control, but we are still operating within the worlds that they built, and we're still clinging on to the worlds that they built and the programs that they put out for us. And that's up to us to change that. That's up to us to get free of that. And if one can do it, others can do it too. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is a strength in numbers, as you know, because that's how we change the collective. So that would be my podcast for you today. And what I want to share with you here today on the 18th of January, 2024. And see where that will take you. As always, don't do this because you want to live up to my expectations, because I have none. I've learned that quite some time ago, that not to have any expectations. I'm not expecting anyone to do anything. And you say, well, you should change that and project that out. Well, let me put it this way. It's a free will civilization in that manner that when we talk about the higher order energies and the higher order awakening processes and remembering and recalling who and what you are, you need to be completely on board with that in yourself, in your core, in your essence. Because the challenges that comes with the true awakening process and the work that needs to be done, you must be in alignment with your true essence and what you feel is important for you. That is what will get you going. Not because others tell you so, not because you believe in a deity that tells you so, not because a guide has told you so, or you've got some kind of imprint that gets you inflated and makes you think that you can do it, but because you know in your core that this is the right work for you, this is what you're here to do. And then ask yourself, if I truly know that this is what I'm here to do, then how do I get my true work started? How do I get my true awakening put in motion so I can truly wake up and do what I came here to do? Thank you.